Welcome everyone to episode 55 of the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor, and with me is a guy who you've probably known if you listen to some of the old the wrestling podcasts that I've done. In the past, I've done like reviews of WWE pay-per-views and that sort of thing. I haven't done any of those in a while, but this guy was a regular part of that panel for a long time. But more than that, he and I go back to, I want to say, almost 2009, 2010. He was I first known him because he was the singer of my buddy's band. He was in a band called Consinity, and then I know he was in a band called Fallen Awake before that. So he's been around the music scene for a long time in Tampa Bay and St. Pete, which is where I used to live. I'm in Orlando now, obviously, but yeah, he had been around for a long time, and then we reconnected a couple years ago just through social media, and I found out all the different stuff he was involved in. I figured he had like maybe one or two food trucks. I know he was involved with that for a little bit, but then I found out about his company, Generation Entertainment, and how it was so much more than that. And I remember my band getting booked on one of his huge food truck festivals at the Florida State Fairgrounds in Tampa. And then I had found out that he was expanding that even further, doing shows outside of Florida. Well, I mean, food truck related events, I should say, food truck rallies. And that became him just branching out into all these different forms of entertainment. I'll let him explain it in a little bit, but this guy, he started out as a guy in several bands, and he was a really good frontman, but he also, started doing all this other stuff as well. And I'll pretty much let him get into it. He's the CEO of Generation Entertainment. Please welcome Mr. Jeremy Gomez.
Hey, what's up, brother?
Not much, man. So this has been a long time coming, just, kind of doing this one-on-one format, traditional podcast. I know, obviously, people, like I mentioned, you've been on several times, so...
We're usually talking about wrestling.
I know, but this time, we're talking about you. We're talking about everything you've done over the years. I know, and, you've been on several morning talk shows in the Tampa area because, Generation has become a big company, and you've been doing all this stuff with food truck rallies and hosting all these different kind of dining events and branching off into other forms of entertainment like concert promoting, like pro wrestling, and which we'll definitely get into that in a little bit. Which obviously we're both big fans of music and pro wrestling, but I'm trying to take this all the way back to the beginning because you were in my buddy Wayne's band for a long time. And you were in Fallen Awake before that. I guess if we could go back to the beginning, I know music was always a big part of where you came from and how you got to be where you are now. But was that something you always wanted to do? Was being in a band or being a lead singer, was that something that you always wanted to do even when you were a kid, or was this just like one of many things that you were interested in?
You know what? Other than like football, oddly enough, and then I just didn't get tall enough for it. Mm-hmm. I guess I always either wanted to be a football player or like a rock star or something like that. But I always thought I'd be a guitar player. I don't really remember wanting to be a singer.
Really?
So much as being one of those guys like you play a little bit, right? Anyway.
I dabble here and there.
I know. I dabble here and there. Anyways, freaking... I thought I'd be able to show off like that. It turns out my brother's the person that can play all the instruments and sing. And I just can't do that at all. Except for, maybe some lower level bass stuff.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of it. I can play a recorder pretty well. Anyways, that's not true. I can play the saxophone a little bit, but the guitar just didn't really work for me.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. When I stopped in like junior high, I stopped getting taller. I'm pretty much the same height, and the coaches thought that other football players would kill me. So I stopped that, and it wasn't until pardon my language, after high school that it was even farther after high school. Man, I was a corrections officer and going into the fire department before. Yeah, I finished fire department school when I was 18 and a half. And then they changed the law or something. Then you had to become a paramedic too. So instead of doing that, I tried another form of, hey, make my dad happy, who's a judge and was a firefighter and all that crap. And I got a sponsorship from the sheriff's office to go to sheriff's school and become a corrections officer. So I was actually that for a second. And then after that, and I was sick of, fighting and dealing with criminal and just crap. They're not all criminals. Just the crap involved in that system. I was kind of over, I guess, doing things for my pops, and I was going to do something for myself. So I think our buddy Nathan Shepard. You know Nathan Shepard, right?
Rings a bell.
G2P.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
in G2P now. He was in Murdoch for a little while, and before, hell band was Nathan, and even before. Anyways, my buddy Nathan went to high school, was in a couple of bands, and he was in a cover band at the time, and I was going to see one of his practices one time, and his singer that was in the cover band was on some, I don't know if it was like meth or heroin or what the hell ever it was, but he was all sketched out, and he ended up not coming. It was heroin because he was throwing up or something like that.
Whoa.
Anyways, he wasn't like doing any of the songs right, and he kind of like left, and they got mad at me, left and went home or something like that. And I was like, dude, I know every single one of these songs, Nathan. I'll do it. So I did that, and then I came back for the next practice, and then I think by the third or fourth practice, me being typical me, not being satisfied with anybody else being in charge, I guess, which is clearly Nathan's band, but anyways, that's what he'll say. I was like, dude, I don't really want to do covers anymore. Because honestly, man, I hate covers. You know who did cover songs the best? The people that fucking wrote them first. A couple of them were okay, but not like the whole fucking show, man. But, oh, dude. Anyways, so, and by the way, singing 40 cover songs is not fun. I think Nate, I think our first song was like Animal. Not Pearl Jam, but
Def Leppard?
No. Fuck you, Jack.
What?
No. Animal I have become.
Oh, 3 Days Grace?
Thank you. 3 Days Grace. Sorry, and I love that band, by the way. Excuse me. Sorry, guys, if you're... Yes, I could go through a couple of my... Anyways, it's just like, cover songs kind of kill you after a while, dude. You're going to like... Anyways, 40 songs, period, will kill you. If 40 songs of, like, conflicting ranges of conflicting people that aren't you. Anyway, so I was a little over that, so we wrote... I think I wrote Wasted or something first, and then a couple of other songs, and so we just started doing that, and I think we had, like, 6 songs when we played our first show, like, as a non-cover band at, like, Brass Mug. Yeah, Brass Mug with Chris's band. What was Chris's band with the brothers?
I don't know.
Chris's first band before Consinity.
I have no idea.
He's gonna kill you. Yeah. The rock band. Eric and the two brothers. Oh my goodness. Anyways, they were awesome. Anyways, and then I ended up being in Consinity with Chris.
Now, was this Falling Awake before Consinity?
Yeah, I don't even remember if we had a name yet the first show, but I do remember when we picked the name Falling Awake, it was like really weird because usually how everybody takes forever to find a name.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually came up with a name. Don't know how. Just thought it was like, I thought Falling Awake, I think at the time I was a little weird. I was like, oh, it's like this time in between when you're sleeping and awake and blah, 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 blah. And we were like, Falling Awake, cool. Holy shit, that was easy. Let's go. It took like fucking 15 seconds, man.
Oh,
amazing.
There you go. So you were probably in your late teens or 20s by the time you started getting into music?
No, man, it was even after that. I think I was like 22 or maybe 23 before I got into like organized music at all, like ever.
See, that's surprising because you've always been so, comfortable on stage, and you had a great voice, and I just assumed that was always something that was kind of in you. And let's be honest, you have a presence about you on stage. You're definitely not shy.
I love how politely you put that, man. Yeah, I got a loud mouth. I love to hear myself talk. I'm a fucking front.
Well, you do. I mean, you're comfortable on stage, and you have that presence about you. You're not all that shy, so it works out in your favor.
My dad's a judge now, but he was a lawyer, so they talk. So, and I have a sister that's 7 years older than me. So by the time I was, of a certain age, she was a teenager. And then my mom's a Spanish woman too. And they all, it's a typical Latin family. Everybody's loud and we talk. And plus, my dad was a lawyer, so everything was a debate back then. He's older now. So I don't know. I guess I just learned that if I'm not louder or if I'm not trying to pull all attention to myself, nobody was ever going to hear me talk. So, unfortunately, it was, heredity and environment, and that was both of them kicking my ass at once. So, I don't know. As far as getting in front of people, man, I used to be an altar boy in school. I was in front of that in church for archbishops and bishops and shit like that. I mean, I was in acting class at Jesuit. I don't know. I feel normal in front of people, I guess. It's cool to me. I like it. I feel more normal on stage than I had for a while, if that makes sense. So, I don't know. But I've always been comfortable in front of people, man. Yeah.
So Falling Awake was your first band, and that was before you and I met. You were in Falling Awake for a little while. What kind of sound did you guys have? Because I had never heard you guys back then, so I didn't know if it was similar to what you ended up doing with Consinity, or how would you sort of describe what Falling Awake's sound was?
Everybody called us a dark alternative band, because I don't know. I like singing, and I can sing obviously, but I can also scream pretty loud, and I wasn't a screaming band, but I got my influences from like Nine Inch Nails and The Doors and like Blur and like bands like that, like early grunge bands. And I would say, other than The Doors being one of my older influences, mostly it was like early grunge or like Nine Inch Nails or something like that. So if you can imagine, listening to some of the grunge bands that could actually sing, or listening to like Alice in Chains, but then also listening to like Nirvana, but then listening to like Trent Reznor, and then the singing coming from, trying to start a riot in the crowd like Jim Morrison. That was, I think that's where it came from, man. That's what I tried to do. I'm an okay singer. I'm a pretty good screamer. I can do both okay, but I think my main job back then in my eyes was to freaking incite riots. So I tried to, broke a lot of mic stands and shorted out a bunch of ego boxes and broke a lot of things at State, and Mark was okay with that.
So from there, you were with Falling Awake for a couple years. Then after that, you moved on to the band where I first got to meet you, was my buddy Wayne's band, Consinity. Wayne was the guitar player for that band, and he was looking to get a new lineup for Consinity, and it ended up being both yourself on lead vocals and Bo Brady.
The interesting thing about that is when I tried, I believe the first Consinity singer was Tom, and I believe unfortunately, his daughter died or something like that, was it?
Yes, you're absolutely correct on that. The original singer of Consinity was a guy by the name of Tom Blow. Unfortunately, he has since passed away in recent years, but at the time, he had a young daughter who passed away, and I forget what the circumstances were, but he lost a daughter, and she was really young, and that's got to be devastating. But I believe he had left the band because, if I remember correctly, he had moved away for a job. He had relocated, so unfortunately, he had to go away because of a job he was working on. And I think he did audio or video. I forget exactly what he did for a living, but that was it. But you are correct. He did have a young daughter named Trinity, who passed away. She couldn't have been older than like 5 or 6, I believe. I never knew the little girl, obviously, but they wrote a song about it called Trinity, which was her name.
Yes, thank you. Beautiful song. I remember the song, but I think that was pretty much it. I don't remember any bad feelings with the band or anything at all. So, but I think the first time I actually met you and we didn't know, I think I actually played a show with you and Consinity at Gasoline Alley, but I don't think I really knew you yet.
That sounds about right. I mean, we certainly played plenty of shows at Gasoline Alley in Largo, which unfortunately it was a great venue, but it's no longer there. But let's see, I'm trying to think back of that time. Like, I must have been in the band Impatient Nation at that point, which I was with them from like 2009 through 2012. So it was right in that area. I must have been in Impatient Nation at the time when we had played some shows together. And as I mentioned earlier, it was both yourself and Bo Brady on lead vocals. So you found yourself in a really unique situation, one that you don't really see all that often, where you were in a band that had 2 lead singers. And by that, I meant two guys who just sang. Like, you guys weren't playing guitar or keys or like trading off lead vocals. Two guys who your main job was just to be the lead singer of the band. How did that come about? Because I thought that was a really interesting choice that they made, and I know that lasted for a little while, but it was always a unique situation. Like, what was your take on all that?
Yeah. So I got into the band, and we did. I didn't even get to the first show when I'm never sick, man, and I got some flu like 3 or 4 months into us practicing and getting the original songs list down and writing up 3 or 4 new songs, and then incorporating some of Falling Awake's songs that I had written into Consinity. We actually did Gray was a Falling Awake song, but I got sick from like a fucking common cold or something, and I was sick for like 2.5, almost 3 months, like bad. I lost a lot of weight. I lost like 25 pounds. I couldn't eat anything. I was like on liquid, and I thank God for Candy. She took care of me. It was horrible, man. It was like I was laying in the bathtub trying to stay warm in the shower like for fucking 4 or 5 hours a day, and I finally and I mean with lots of medicine. The doctors were giving me all sorts of antibiotics, and it finally broke. And I think the band thought I was bullshitting them about this because they all lived far away. So I think Chris Shoup came and checked on me one time, but they all had lives and stuff and lived far away, so nobody really came and checked on me. I think they thought I was bullshitting. And so they went and were looking for a new singer. So I got better, and I showed up to practice. I'm like, what's up? And Bo's there.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, first of all, I didn't know about the whole thing with you being sick, so I mean, that sounds awful. I mean, I'm glad you got better, but once you got back there and then Bo's there, I mean, did you know about that? I mean, what was that like? Was that like an awkward situation?
Yeah, man. And they were like, dude, I don't think they thought I was coming back. Like, really, I legitimately think that they thought I was either not coming back or lying or I was dead or something. So I came back, and then we were just like, hell, we'll do it together. And it was okay for a little while, and then I don't even, you know how bands are sometimes, man. Egos get in the way and stuff, and then we just didn't click together. And it's a shame because we probably would have done pretty good together if we would have gotten our heads wrapped around it,
Yeah, that whole thing was crazy, and I mean, it's a shame it didn't last a little bit longer because you were both really good singers. But I remember there was a lot of tension between you two guys at the time, and from what I understand, you guys get along now. But I remember back then there was like a lot of stuff happening. Like I remember one gig you guys did at Market on 7th in Ybor, and I think my band was playing at that same show at the time. And I remember there ended up being some big like scuffle, and it almost like ended up in a full-on brawl because there's something either between you guys or between Bo's wife and your wife, and it just got crazy. And I remember sitting there thinking like, oh my God, like what have we gotten ourselves into? Like, what is going on over here?
Yeah. I was trying not to even bring that up. So no, it was strictly me and Bo. It was me and Bo's fault. We'll take all. Now you know what? F that. It was firmly Chris Shoup's fault.
Wait, what?
Everything.
Come on.
All Shoup.
No.
And I'm gonna tag Shoup when you post this. You Shoup.
No way. He's way too nice for that. He didn't cause trouble back then. I remember that.
Shoup, you're too gorgeous, and it caused a lot of fucking problem, man. If you weren't so swole and smart.
Oh yeah. Well, he is very handsome.
Very handsome.
Yeah. No.
Hold on. I want to think of Chris for a little bit. Hold on.
Oh wow. Are you okay? Wait a second.
And do the thinking sound like a Jeopardy. Okay. I'm done.
Okay. All right. Now that we got that out of the way. All right, but so then once you were done with Consinity, was that it? Or, because I don't remember any other bands you were in.
Actually, we had another band after that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, me and Nathan got back together for like a short time, and we started a band called G2P, which originally stood for Gone to Plaid. And then I think it Give to People is what it changed into. Me and Nathan have this.
Oh, okay. I've heard of G2P. I just didn't know that you were involved in it.
Yes, I started the band. It was my band. Nathan will tell you that. But like me and Nathan have known each other well before music into high school. Me and Nathan just could not be in bands together because our egos just boosh together. As long as we're not in bands, cool. But bands, so we were just like, man, hey, doing this. And Candy was about to have a baby, my first child, and it was just time that I did something that didn't make me the person that I was when I was in music, which was I was just a piece of shit, man. But when you're a front man, sometimes, and sometimes I'm very OCD about work, and I take things very seriously. So I think sometimes I actually get into it too much, and I just gotten into the front man believing his own bullshit, breaking stages, fucking opening. There was a point when, man, every time a fucking show would come to State Theater, we were opening for him. I think I opened freaking Framing Hamley like 3 times in a row. Crossfade, freaking Raw, goddamn Skindred, freaking like consecutively, like in a row, like in a 2 months. I just got into the freaking believing my own shit. So it was time to, before my daughter was born, it was time to not be that person anymore. So I got the hell out.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, that's cool if you were able to recognize that in yourself.
I did not. I didn't recognize that in myself, man. My wife recognized it.
Oh, okay. Sometimes that happens too.
I put up a fight. She is a good woman. Put up with me, number one, and to freaking give it shit to stay.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, even despite all that, it sounds like you're really happy doing what you're doing right now with Generation Entertainment being what it is. It sounds like you really enjoy doing what you do right now. So, I was curious. I knew that it kind of grew out of like the food trucks, and that was something you got started in. I mean, was it the food trucks that came before the event planning and promoting? How did that all come together?
Food truck happened first. The food truck in Florida, like 5 or 6 years now at the most. I was the 13th truck in town. I was the 13th food truck. So we bought a food truck. We started doing that because I liked weird, crazy fucking food. So we started an exotic food truck, like bison, boar, like rabbit, python, frog, antelope, all just meat that wasn't beef. And we were doing events, and we just needed more events, so that's where Generation started. We started an entertainment company so we could start doing our own events, so our food truck would have more events to go to, and then so would the other food trucks. Kind of like music, man. Your friends always need a gig to play, and so do the other food truckers. So we were just like, seeing J-Rock and Patty do it. I'd seen other people do it, and I was like, you kind of get in your head like, dude, in music, who makes the money? Oh, man, the people putting on the shows, the producer. Everybody but the band. Fuck everybody but the person doing the work. Anyway.
Ain't that the goddamn truth?
Sounds so bad, but it's true.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be the band anymore. Screw that. I'm putting on the damn show. And I'll be the band in the show. Ha-ha. So we went double whammy. So we started that company strictly to just give us more food truck gigs. I was going to say, what actually got me the gig to the big time and all the what kind of music actually got me there?
What's that?
The fairgrounds had this fucking country concert.
Mm-hmm.
Like a country music concert of my favorite country music, unless it's Garth. They needed like 6 food trucks, so I sent 6 food trucks to them. And that was how I started getting the world record crap going and the bigger events going.
Hey, that makes sense, man. I'm sure those shows had a big attendance, so yeah, why not? You do bring up an interesting point, and I'm glad we're segueing into this, how you and I kind of reconnected was through your event planning, through the world record stuff that you mentioned. In, I want to say 2014, you were behind what they were called the world's largest food truck rally. It was like some sort of world record, and you were going for that at the Florida State Fairgrounds, which is right near the amphitheater and all that stuff. And my band, Vertebraker, who I'm still in, by the way, we were part of that event, and it didn't, it took me a little while to figure out, like, Jeremy Gomez is the guy behind this. Oh, I know him. So that was a really cool thing, and it happened to be on my 30th birthday when we played that gig.
No, I knew like 40 or so trucks, maybe max. That was like the biggest food truck event I had done. It was like 30 or 40 food trucks, something like that. And after the country concert, I was walking around the fairgrounds with the fairgrounds lawyer, looking around. And she's like, "Hey, everybody loves the food trucks, blah, 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 blah." I was like, "Yeah, I know. It's my job." And we're looking around. She's like, "How many food trucks do you think you can fit out here?" And I knew the world record for the most food trucks at an event at a time was like 64 in Miami. And they set it on my birthday. Which is 420 that year. So I was looking around. I was like, I could probably fit like 100 or so out there. And they're like, okay, cool, do it. I was like, man. I was like, okay, no problem. Dude, I didn't know 100 trucks. I knew like 40 trucks. So all of a sudden I have to set a world record for a food truck world record with, and then I had to locate 60 more trucks. So I got more trucks by going on Twitter and saying we've got this event and every truck is invited, and it kind of took off from there. And then we started doing mega events because we got known at the fairgrounds and we got a world record, and they just got, from there it got bigger and bigger. Yes. Was it Rick that booked you for that?
Maybe. Like Rick who?
Ace High? Obviously Rick, Ace High Printing.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. I remember that now.
My old bass player in Falling Awake.
Get out. Are you serious? Huh. Small world. So anyways, that brings us to sort of one of the reasons why we're doing this right now is you have developed and you are promoting Canna Fest, which is a really big festival that I know is supports a cause that's very very near and dear to your heart. I would rather let you explain to everybody what Canna Fest is and how our mutual love of pro wrestling kind of factored into this, because I know that's an element of the festival as well, and I'm curious to see how that all came together and how everything fits. But in terms of I'll just let you explain what Canna Fest is.
Canna Fest is the largest medical cannabis show in the Southeast United States. That's just a segue to the wrestling real quick. We'll talk about that later. My wrestling company is a pro-cannabis wrestling company. And the premise behind that is not so much pro-cannabis, get high and everything. It's not like a Cheech and Chong company. It's I know some wrestlers, and as you know, as a wrestling fan, a lot of wrestlers die from opioid abuse. A lot of wrestlers die from pain pills. A lot of wrestlers get hurt because of it. Not only that, you could hurt other wrestlers because of it. You're all messed up on painkillers in the ring, catching people. Guess what? So it's that day and age where CBD and medical marijuana is getting looked at even by the E as an alternative and not really frowned upon as much anymore. So it's time that we were outward about the fact that we don't want them on pills anymore. We want them on something that's not going to kill them. So we promote CBD. We're actually sponsored by Extract Labs, which is a CBD company, one of the best in the world. All their hemp is grown in Colorado. The CBD is the good stuff in marijuana. It's not the stuff that gets you high. The stuff that gets you healthy. It doesn't get you high at all. So we're just proactive about that. It's very low key. You might see it here and there, like in a promo or something like that. But we're not really like talking about it. It's in the background, But it's okay. You're not gonna flunk the wellness policy if you're smoking or if you're taking CBD or something at our company. We encourage it. We'd rather you not take pills and hurt people and die. And that's shit. And so it took off, kind of. Dylan Shaw that he just beat what's his face in UFC. TJ Dillashaw just retained one of the belts in UFC. Great fighter. The man's amazing. He just got a sponsorship from a major CBD company too. So it's moving into UFC. I'm sure some people in the E probably partake for health reasons. I'm sure some people in the OWL probably partake, and I'm sure a couple people in the or the row probably partake. And I don't know what the Japanese do. I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know if they do that stuff. Really, who knows? It's probably way too efficient. But at least one of them may. But we just and the thing is, it kind of took off because now we have wrestlers from all over the country and all over the world sending us resumes. No crap. It's some pretty cool people, man. I talked to Evan Bourne. I talked to him a couple days ago. Sorry, Matt Seidel. Sorry, forgot. Told him I'd been a fan of him since Wrestling Society X way back on MTV. And he can't make it to our first show, but he's down for other shows after that, so I get to work with him eventually. Gangrel's actually doing our first show.
Man, if there's anyone who would be perfect for this event, it would be Rob Van Dam. And I know that's probably a big name to get, but talk about the most high profile pro cannabis guy. He would be the guy.
Okay, Rob, listen, if you're listening, you need to check your email, Rob. I understand you're a little slow, buddy, but email, click this email. I know, Godfather too. Check your email. Val, check your email. Jesus, guys, man. But Gangrel checked his email, so Gangrel's coming. Which is cool because my favorite intro in WWE history is The Brood, And my favorite intro song in WWE history is Gangrel. So at my first wrestling show that I produce ever, I get to have Gangrel wrestling and my favorite intro. We're not going to do the fire circle, obviously, but we could. He said, "Go ahead." I said, "No, we can't do fire at our event. They told us not to." But so psych, man. We got a lot of really cool wrestlers, man. And I guess I'm the I am the boss, Mr. Gomez.
Yep, you're going to be writing the show just like Vince McMahon.
I hate to say it, but I sure am. It's funny as hell to me. It's great. It's cool. I like it. Maybe one day the real Vince will give me a lot of money to disappear.
Well, that is a possibility.
Hey, Tommy.
oh, too real. All right, so we know that there's going to be pro wrestling there. We know that there's going to be music there, but given the nature of what this festival is all about, I imagine that you might have a few speakers or a few exhibits there. What else can we expect at Canna Fest?
Our keynote speaker is Roger Stone Jr. If you're not familiar with Roger Stone, quick background. He was on Nixon's panel. He was in Nixon's cabinet. He actually helped Richard Nixon make it harder for people to smoke weed and get away with it. And then he was on Reagan's cabinet and helped Nancy Reagan come up with Say No to Drugs. He worked on Al Sharpton's presidential campaign. And he is, pardon me, I'm still recovering. He is one of Donald Trump's good friends and is from time to time on his cabinet and is also the person that is now trying to talk Donald Trump into legalizing marijuana. That sounds weird. The flip-flop. The flip-flop is because Roger Stone's father got sick, and the only thing that kind of eased his pain and suffering before he passed away was medical marijuana. So sometimes it takes things like that to shock you into seeing that maybe some of the things you've been taught your whole life weren't completely accurate. Because let's face it, a lot of people that are against weed, it's not because they're hating, it's because that's what they've been taught, man. You know, big pharma, big thing. That's why there's a big in front of it. It's hard to compete.
Whenever you have a festival like this and with a particular cause like this, it's a bit of a controversial topic, a bit of a hot button issue. It has been for decades now. Because I already know what this means to you and why you do all that you do. Obviously, putting together a festival like this is very hard work. And I know that this issue is something you believe in very, very strongly. If you could explain to the listeners what it is that makes you so motivated to take on this cause in the form of having a big festival like this.
I'm not going to lie. I love getting high. I've smoked weed my entire life. That didn't cause me to start a cannabis festival. I could have been a stoner on my couch, not bothering anybody, buying things off Amazon, making money, spurring economy, not causing trouble. Something then happened to me a little while ago that changed my life in regards to cannabis, and that is my 6-year-old daughter, Darian, has autism, and she's on the spectrum. So we got into it for that reason, because at some point we were given CBD to try on her, which, again, perfectly legal. We were given CBD, the legal part of weed, and we gave it to our close to nonverbal daughter who's autistic, and within 15 minutes of using it, which is, it's an isolate, you put it in the drink, she drinks it. It's tasteless, it's odorless, whatever. About 15 minutes after she took it, she started talking. And it's kind of a miracle. I'm not going to sit here and go through every spiel about CBD, but look it up. CBD reacts with your endocannabinoid system, and before weed and hemp was outlawed, it was in our diet constantly. Animals ate it. We ate the animals. We ate wheat. It was in everything. And you know, there is a lot of arguments to the lack of cannabis and hemp anymore, and the reason autism and other things and other diseases and other sicknesses have started getting bigger and bigger because we don't have that anymore. However, CBD is changing that. Go look it up. CBD. So that's why I got into it. We wanted to. The original Canna Fest was 2 years ago. It was right before the medical vote was set to be done again, and we wanted to make sure that this time everybody got up off their ass and voted. So we did it right before the vote. The vote passed, and this is our second event. So when it passed medically. Autism still isn't on it, so we're still kind of fighting to get autism on the ballot and covered by medical marijuana. So that's why we got into it for my daughter. And we got into it the first time. We realized, it's quite humbling when you realize it's bigger than yourself and how many people you're helping and how many people are amazed and thankful for it. So we kept doing it, and this year we're doing it again. It's crazy big. True Leave is our title sponsor. We have a 420 Canna fashion show this year, 420 Nation clothing line launched by my wife. We have Cannabis Church on Sunday. Pastor Nathan is going to talk about what would Jesus do about cannabis.
Yeah, I saw the thing about the Cannabis Church, which is interesting. I was like, okay, like where are they going with this? Like, I wasn't really sure what that was all about.
You got to have church on Sunday, and here's the thing about Canna Fest. When you're trying to sway the vote to be pro-cannabis, the left and the liberal world already votes pro-cannabis. I don't have to sway the left. I have to sway the right, and I have to sway the conservatives. And guess what? Conservatives go to church. So you have to have conservative people like Roger Stone. You have to have church. And by the way, a lot of Christians smoke weed. A lot of Christians are sick and need medicinal marijuana. And it's not like it used to be. It's not a totally taboo thing anymore because a lot of Christians also realize the health benefits, and that's why it's legal in half the country already. So you have to incorporate things like that. Then we have like 40 food trucks. We have like 60 other speakers. We have like 80 vendors. We've got an art zone, a kids zone. I mean, you name it, dude. Like I said, we got the wrestling, we got this and that, and music, and I think bagpipes are starting each morning. Awesome. Yeah, we got to roll into bagpipes each morning, man. It's going to be cool, huh? get us like Braveheart wound up every day. It'll be cool.
I'm imagining that first thing in the morning, Braveheart style, bagpipes going off, some guy giving a speech, they may take our weed, but they will never take our freedom. It's a terrible accent, by the way. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, thank you. I might steal this one from you, sir. If I do that, it's going to say presented by Jack.
Oh, that's fine. I'll only take like 20%. Whatever.
No. Well, I'm going to pro bono that.
Right.
0 is 0.
Yeah, I guess you got a good point there. No, but seriously though, like I admit I even had my skepticisms going into this event, for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't really partake. I never have. I'm not planning on trying it anytime soon, especially because if I did, I would for sure lose my job.
But you don't have to be there. That's the point. Nobody's going to push any weed on you. It's not like a commercial, dude.
Right. No, of course. But even with all that, it's still an issue that I personally, look, it doesn't really affect me one way or the other, but I'm still kind of curious about it because I don't really know all that much about it. And especially if it helps, as many people as you said, that's something I find interesting. Like, I'm curious to learn more about it. And I think that's what this event is all about, is sort of spreading awareness, spreading education. And I think that's a cool thing. In seeing, in talking to you over the last few months, I know there's been controversy, not just because of the what the issue is, but also who you're bringing in. You mentioned Roger Stone, who works with the president. It seems like that has, gotten you a lot of blowback and a lot of, and from what I understand, the event is supposed to be a nonpartisan function. Like it's not supposed to necessarily lean one way or the other politically.
It's completely nonpartisan. I'm a Catholic Republican. 80% of my speakers are liberal. You know what I mean? And a lot of the weed industry has been up until recently. So, but my event is so that everybody can hear every side of it from everything. I mean, textiles. You can build houses with hemp, hempcrete, food, water, nutrition, clothing. I mean, plastics. And that's what Canna Fest is. It's so that people can see that, dude, there's a lot more to cannabis than just getting high. I mean, it's like it grows at 4 times faster than trees do, which means you can use it for paper. 4 times as renewable. I mean, the Declaration of Independence is written on hemp paper for a reason, people. You know why? Because they knew it was fucking sustainable. But I digress. We're smarter than our forefathers now, aren't we? Yeah. But it's a lot, man. I mean, everything you could think of. Everything, and that's why we do the event. And we want people to realize that if you come to this cannabis event, that, oh my God, we're normal like everybody else. You go to this concert and there's a bunch of people drinking and acting stupid. You don't have to do that. You can come to this event. And if people are medicating, you don't have to do that. Because here's another thing. People aren't going to like run up to you and try to give you their expensive cannabis or their expensive medicine because guess what? It's expensive. And that's illegal too. So they can't do that. And there's a lot of security and a lot of police and a lot of safety issues. So it's not, they need to people just need to come and realize it's a normal thing. Instead of people drinking and getting drunk and coming from band life, I'm sorry. I'm not one of those people that enjoyed bandmates drinking or after for that matter, but I would much rather them been smoking than drinking because, man, like not everybody, man. A lot of people can handle their liquor and know how to not act stupid, but it's just in my opinion, I'd rather people be smoking than drinking, dude. A lot less dying, a lot less hurting themselves, a lot less getting fat, a lot less, man, whatever. It'll happen one day. It'll happen one day.
No, definitely, you're right about that. I agree with that 100%. And if I had to choose, and look, I realize I'm a guy who doesn't drink or doesn't, doesn't smoke or do anything like that. Personally, I mean, if I had to choose, I would rather be around people who were a little bit high or whatever than people who were drunk. If I had to choose between the two, that's what I would go with too. So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I know I touched on this earlier, but I know you've gotten a lot of heat, from everyone from politicians to other festivals to people not liking your choice of speakers for whatever reason and, sending you all kinds of nasty messages and sometimes even death threats and whatnot. What has, some of the controversy been? Because I know it's a hot button issue, but like, some of the blowback that you've been getting is really been surprising to me. What has been going on with that?
Oh, somebody that's running for a certain office in Florida right now didn't like me and decided to go run to the people in Seattle Hemp Fest and tell them that I was ripping them off because my event was called Hemp Space Fest Space Florida. Okay, 3 words. The Hemp Fest Seattle people got tipped off by this rather large person running for office in Florida. And I won't say his name, but I'll keep alluding to his rotunda-ness. Not Rotunda the wrestler, not that person at all. He rotund as in round. So anyways, we get a cease and desist one day from Hemp Fest Seattle that I've never been to, ever, which is a get high, Cheech and Chong, let's smoke everything fucking festival in a state where weed is legal. It has nothing to do with our festival at all, which is a medical festival that just happened to use the word hemp in it because at the time it was illegal, and using the word cannabis 3 or 4 years ago wasn't the best idea. People were still getting new to it, so you had to use a softer word. So they sent us a cease and desist, and the next day I wake up, our Facebook page is gone, our Twitter page is gone, our Instagram page is gone. Luckily, Eventbrite didn't take down our ticketing page. They just removed every reference to everything other than the word festival. So they had reported us for trademark infringement because apparently HempFest and the pig vomits at HempFest Seattle, because I can say that now. So they sent us papers to everything that showed us them their trademark, which is HempFest, one word, Seattle. Okay, ours was Hemp Fest, 2 different words that you cannot own. You can't own the word hemp and you can't own the word fest. And not only that, part of Florida in it, being Hemp Fest Florida, gave it a geographical distinction. So they gave us all that went down. So I was like, you know what, screw that. So I made a video like dogging them and crap. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it the way I grew up. My dad's a lawyer. I'm calling a lawyer. So our lawyer sent them a real cease and desist. Not just the email we got from some kid named Cyril, which I can only say Cyril now from watching Archer so much. His name was Cyril. We sent him a real cease and desist. The next day, all our Instagram, all that crap came back on. Everything came back up, and we had our stuff again. And then I'm sitting back after we had paid money to get a real cease and desist, and everything was back, and they were done messing with us. And I'm like, you know what? They were right. I don't want anybody confusing me with Hemp Fest. So after all that crap, I went and changed the name to Canna Fest Florida. After all that, because it just, it rang true in my head. I don't want people mistaking our event for those assholes. I'm going to keep calling them assholes. Instead of calling us and talking it out and figuring out the problem. They tried to get $15,000 of me to use the name. And when I told them no, they did all that crap to me. $15,000 just to use the name in a state that they had never done anything in, that they don't care about. So that sucked. So I changed it, and that was controversy number one. We had made it through that. So then we get our keynote speaker, Roger Stone, who many people might think is the Prince of Darkness himself. And he actually loves that distinction, so I'll say it. Roger, you know, he might be the Antichrist. He might also be Jesus himself. I hope he hears that. He'd love it. So, being a friend of Donald Trump, there's a lot of people that have exception with him because he is Donald Trump's friend, and he was, you know, part of the Watergate scandal and the youngest person to sit in front of Congress for Watergate. And you can watch this documentary on Netflix. Just watch it. It's hysterical. So we got hate mail. I mean, death threats. People were threatening to kill me and like my family and crap. And it's like all over him. And what they don't understand is that, like, and I've said this before too. Roger always has the media around him. Roger always has a camera firmly shoved up his ass. There is always camera around. Roger can bash CNN in the morning, and he will be on CNN that afternoon in an interview. That's what Roger does. He gets media. He's got the president's ear. Why wouldn't we want a pro-cannabis person that talks to the president? We want the president to make weed legal. The president and Roger Stone do not like Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions is what's keeping weed illegal right now. We want him there. We want Netflix and their documentary crew to be there. We want Breitbart to be there. We want Vice to be there, and he makes that happen. And also, he's a fucking genius, a really cool man, and he knows about what pro-cannabis and being pro-cannabis can do. He's seen it firsthand. He fights for it, you know, and so we want him there. And he's freaking cool, man. We've been to dinner with him. We've been out with him. The dude's, I mean, he's a genius. He's just, I'm a promoter, and that man can promote circles around me by just saying a sentence. I mean, it's amazing. So, I mean, not only can we learn a lot, but he's got a lot to say. He's got a coalition with John Morgan, who in Florida is very, 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 very pro-cannabis. If there's people that have done way more than us for cannabis in Florida, it's certainly John Morgan, among lots of others, obviously, but it's certainly Mr. Morgan. He just should be there, among others.
You know, and I'm sure, and I know that you know this, but of course, no matter what you do or say, people are going to get in an uproar about it. People are going to be outraged, and you know, even no matter what Roger Stone does or says, you know, there's going to be controversy behind that. But I think that's, especially in today's climate, anytime anything remotely political is in the news, you know, people just go crazy about it.
My social media got hijacked for days because of that. But like I said, it's a nonpartisan event, and just like I have him, I have, you know, 50 other people from the left. And that's cool to me because, oh, well, guess what? Both people smoke weed. Both people use weed. Both people are dying of cancer. We need it. You know, both people have autistic children. Both sides have people that have epilepsy. Both sides have war veterans with PTSD. You know, it's arguable that I have PTSD from growing up with an autistic child in the house. It's rough. We don't get sleep. You know, there's meltdown after meltdown after meltdown, even though it's gotten better now. And you know, family members that are taking care of handicapped people. It's rough, man. It's rough. It's a fight, man. It's always a fight, and I told Candy yesterday that I was like, you know, if it's not legal in Florida next year, I was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore, man, because it's just, I've spent 9 months already on this event. And I mean, it's 9 months of hell, man. I don't get to see my kids a lot. Thank God Candy's here to watch them. I mean, even though I'm here, I'm always, you know, right here on the phone because it's my office. It's just rough. I don't think I have it in me. And on top of that, I've got like a food fest coming up in Carrollwood this week, our Philly Food Fest. There'll be thousands of people there. On November 4th, I've got the world's largest food truck rally in Detroit, 2 weeks after Canna Fest. There's 40,000 people already registered for that event. We've got a wrestling show here. We've got a wrestling show at World's Largest Food Truck Rally. Then we have a wrestling show in California in January. Then we have a wrestling show in Louisiana, I think, in February. You know, and now we're starting to do things with some people from Ronin. We're starting to do things with people from Elevate Pro Wrestling. It's getting a lot going on. And then I got other food events during that. We're in talks with Daytona now to bring world's largest food truck rally to Daytona International Speedway and their other tracks, which is amazing. Don't get me started. So it's a rough event, man. It's rough, and I gotta worry that I can get arrested for doing nothing illegal. I could get hassled over it. It's just I'm one of the leaders of pro cannabis in Florida. So believe it or not, Big Pharma doesn't like me, believe it or not, because I hang out with Roger Stone, the NSA is probably listening to everything I freaking say. That's no bullshit. So it's rough, and I'm not sure I want. I told this to her yesterday. I'm not sure I want to do it anymore. But then I wake up this morning and I'm like, dude, if I don't do it, if I don't put that bullseye on myself, if I'm not the person to do it, so who the fuck else is going to do it? So, wake up one morning and think that I can't do it anymore. And then I wake up the next morning and, Nate, my number one, or Candy's here to remind me that we're fucking gladiators and we have to do it. So it's crazy, man. It's crazy. I went from, lead singer of a band or guy that was going to be a firefighter way back in the day to doing this, like something meaningful. This is meaningful to me. The other events are fun. The other events entertain people strictly. This is more than entertainment. It helps people's lives. I've shake people's hands in wheelchairs in my event. I've shake veterans' hands in my event and have them crying, and it makes me cry over shit.
Gotcha. Wow. I mean, it's, there's a lot going on to it, and I'm sure there's a ton going on behind the scenes. It sounds like this has been a big ordeal, but also, in a way, a labor of love for you, because of, especially everything going on with your daughter and how personal that is to you. I don't necessarily know, everything that's going on with the politics behind all this. It wouldn't surprise me if it does get legalized. Honestly, I feel like a lot of the country tends to be going that way, and so it wouldn't surprise me if it gets legalized in Florida. Do you know where things currently stand with that? As far as the laws that are being passed, or because I don't think it's legal yet. As we're having this discussion, I don't think it's legal yet, recreationally or medically, in the state of Florida.
Well, 71.9% of the state already voted for medical. As soon as we get whole flower, you know what? Pretty soon, I'm convinced that Trump's going to make it legal in his third term just to fuck over Bernie. Bye platform, Bernie. But I'm sorry, third year. My bad. Pardon me, third year. So what's that already? Next year. So Trump's going to write himself a third term into office somehow. It'll be like heads explode. Oh, my God. What did he do? He cured cancer and gave himself another term. Oh, screw him. Anyway.
Oh, bro, that's a whole different conversation, and I would get into that, but I don't want people coming after me for saying the wrong thing, so I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, no, I'm really proud of you for everything you've done with Canna Fest. I know this is this is a really important thing to you, and I know you've worked super hard to get it together. So, I'm looking forward to it. Where can people find out more about Canna Fest and more about what your company does? Where can people find Generation Entertainment online?
Well, Generation Entertainment is primarily always been social media. We actually don't use our actual website for Generation Entertainment. So just find us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. Canna Fest Florida, you can actually go to cannafestflorida.com. That's there. And then you can also find us on Instagram and all that stuff. Just type either Generation Entertainment Florida or Canna Fest Florida into Google, and all our stuff will come up, our YouTube pages, all that good stuff. If you like the wrestling, go check out some of our wrestling promos on our Generation Championship Wrestling YouTube page. It's GCW 420. The clothing line will be out October 13th at the fashion show, so you can buy some of the 420 Nation fashions after that. And I don't know, man. I don't know when the show's going to be done. I'd say you can find us in Carrollwood this weekend, but I don't know when you're editing this, so you got a lot of stuff on your plate as well, sir.
Well, I will definitely make sure that I can get this out before Canna Fest happens. So, if you're listening to this after it happened, then then you're too late. But but at least I can plug your stuff anyway, so people can follow you for future events. Hopefully, knock on wood. But yeah, no. Before we go, I do want to ask you one last question. You do have a history with being a frontman in bands, And I know you're happy doing what you're doing now. Could you ever see yourself doing something like that again? Do you still have a little bit of music in you? Like, how do you feel about that?
I honestly talked about it with my wife the other day, and I, I'm I got pretty fat. I was up to like 280 pounds, and then I lost 108 pounds, so I'm back healthy. I don't smoke anymore. Other than that you heard me cough, I can run miles, like do cardio for a few hours a day, so I know I can do it like physically now. Um, I don't need the money anymore, so I don't need to do it for a career. So I think I could do it now and just enjoy myself. And I know I want to do it so that my daughters can see me on stage. But I don't think I want to do it unless I can talk Rick into doing it as my bass player. And I don't want to do it unless I can maybe talk Mark Rivera into coming and playing guitar for a little bit again, or one of those guys, or possibly even Nathan for a couple shows. God forbid. Fuck. I love Nathan, man, but it's like we're just, it's fun. But I know I wouldn't want to do it unless Rick was playing bass, and Rick has Ace High Printy now, and he's making stuff for Madonna and Korn and Major League Baseball and Fox and stuff. So it's just a matter of finding a time, and obviously my life experience has changed a lot, so my songwriting would just be completely different. So it'll happen. It'll happen one day. It'll happen for my girls. It'll happen so they can see me one time.
Oh, dude, I totally understand that, and I definitely see where you're coming from as far as that goes. Because I've got a daughter myself. She's only a year old, but I definitely want to be doing that when she's old enough to see it and kind of understand that, oh, that's my dad on stage. So I totally see where you're coming from with that.
Oh, dude, the war paint's gonna go back on again, bro. Don't worry, one day. Soon.
Yes, I love it. I'm all about that.
Damn, I didn't even talk about the radio show that we have. It aired today.
What radio show?
You know that? Mm-mm. We have a medically cleared, the first cannabis radio show on the air today.
Oh, okay. That's cool. What's that all about?
Yeah, we sponsored it. We'll talk about it next time or some crap.
All right. Always keep people waiting. I'm sure any excuse to have you back on is fine with me.
I'll send it to you. We have the first cannabis sponsored, the first pro medical cannabis radio show on Beasley, on network radio, on 3 radio stations, 92.1, 103.1, and 1010 AM, and then some digital station. But medically cleared radio on Beasley. So we're doing that every Wednesday, 5 to 6. Yeah.
Thank you to my good friend Jeremy Gomez, the founder and CEO of Generation Entertainment Florida, and the man behind Canna Fest and Generation Championship Wrestling and all the stuff he has going on. He always has something going on, and you're a really good guy, really funny to talk to. So always a blast having him on the show. We did originally record this, I want to say about a month or 6 weeks before I've actually started posting this. So some of the information about some of the speakers may have changed since then. I would go to cannafestflorida.com just to make sure everything's up to date. Since I have recorded this with him, there has been a change in location. It was originally going to be at Maddox Ranch in Lakeland, Florida. Now it is going to be at the Crossroads Lodge at Historic Lebanon Station in Inglis, Florida, which is in Levy County. So the address to that is 11350 State Road 121 in Inglis, Florida. So definitely look that up and make your plans accordingly. But that's where Canna Fest will be. It will be on Saturday, October 13th, and Sunday, October 14th. So it'll be 2 days. My band Vertebreaker will be playing on the second day, on Sunday the 14th. So if you want to come out and see us, that's the day to do it. There'll also be, I believe the wrestling will be that day as well. Check the website for the schedule of all the events and all the speakers that are happening at Canna Fest. Just so you make sure you're up to date on all that. As far as upcoming events, Vertebreaker does have a couple shows happening within the next few months. Starting in October, we will be part of the 2 Nights of Metal Festival in Winter Park, Florida, at the Haven, which is just outside of Orlando. We will be there the second night, which is October 13th. It's a Saturday. We will be there along with Darkness by Design, New Dilemma, and the show will be headlined by Breathing Theory. They're good friends of mine. David Marfitt and Colin Morrison have been on this show many times. Go back and listen to the episodes with them because they're great. And then, of course, the next day we will be at the second day of Canna Fest, which I mentioned. Also appearing at Canna Fest, I forgot to even mention this, is Cruel Curses, my buddy Brian's band. Brian Scott, who's been on this show before, he's an old bandmate of mine. He's in a really great band called Cruel Curses, and they're going to be playing there as well. We will be there a little bit early. I want to say we probably go on mid-afternoon, so I think the doors open at around 11 a.m. for both days. So make sure you get there early because we're gonna go on a little early. I think just before the Generation Championship Wrestling, just before that show starts. So make sure you get there early. And then later on in November, Friday, November 30th, we will be coming back to the Brevard County area, playing at the Shady Oaks Lounge in Palm Bay. That will be the last of the Heavy Metal Harvest series, which is promoted by our good friend Chris Sherry. It's the last show that he will be promoting. We will be headlining there, and we will be playing with Southern Fried Genocide, Who Was I, Auditory Armory, and Red Calling. All of those bands we have a history with. They're all great. If you're in the area, definitely come out. That'll be dedicated to the memory of our good friend J.C. Edwards of 9 Mile Drive, who passed away about a year ago. So it's really going to be a great night, and we hope to see you out there. So that is going to be it for this episode of the Phoenix Report. I apologize that there hasn't been a lot of them lately. My wife and I, we've been moving into a new house, so things have been really busy the last couple of months, so I haven't been able to get these out as often as I would like. So I apologize for that. But make sure you follow me on Twitter at JackXConnor, and you can always tweet me with the hashtag Phoenix Report. You can like me on Facebook at facebook.com/JackConnorMusic. Feel free to check out my band on Facebook at facebook.com/VerteBreakerBand, as well as my brand new web series, which is called Beyond Backstage with Jack and Sarah. It's on YouTube. Definitely go check out. We just set up a new YouTube account for that, so go ahead and subscribe to that if you can. Sarah Little, my co-host, has been on the show before. I'm going to try and have her on again soon to just kind of tell you guys more about the new show. Also check out some of my appearances on the YouTube show Florida Freaks, which is on the Alacor Productions YouTube channel. I'm really proud of that, and I'm glad to be working with them. Alacor is also producing Beyond Backstage, the new show. So a lot of really good stuff happening there. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, make sure you email me at jackconnorpodcast@gmail.com or tweet me. You can leave a comment, subscribe here on YouTube, hit the notification bell, and go back and listen to all the other episodes I've done. So that is it for this episode of the Phoenix Report. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.